Hello, my name is Den, and I'm just chilling underneath my bridge. Uh, and I'm gonna talk to you guys about humans and right and wrong. Not that I feel like I have any right to talk about that, if I'm being honest, because I've done wrong stuff, you know, but or that I have any right to talk about it because I'm not some philosopher. I'm just some 19-year-old under a bridge, you know? But I feel like everyone's opinions are like fundamentally what makes them special, and I think people should be able to share that. But that goes against one of my other beliefs too, which is I think people need to shut the fuck up, like Bo Burnham said. you know? But enough about that. So let's talk about people. I think people are beautiful. If I'm being honest, I think they're just so interesting. You know, the way that life just started as a single cell organism, right? A chemical reaction. And ever since then, it kept going and it kept morphing, and all under the perfect conditions. Yes, there are a few like mass extinctions, but overall, just so perfect to the point where we've come out of it. We are here now, and we're built and engineered for a world that we don't live in. We don't live in the world that we were built for, you know? We live in one that we built for ourselves. And honestly, no wonder we have become so pathetic sometimes, you know, because I think it's so beautiful that we've got to the point where we are, and how our bodies are just beautifully designed. And like, because emotions, they weren't meant for what we have them for now, you know? They weren't, like, I only have sympathy for people because if I were to eat someone else's food that they hunted, I would have felt bad about it, you know? And that's a survival skill, because we survive off of each other, you know? And so sympathy was a big one to help us survive. But now it's just, you know, I feel bad about everything enough to say sorry about everything, you know? But it wasn't meant for that. It wasn't meant for that. Sympathy wasn't meant for that. But I think it's so cool that we're just nature supercomputers. Sorry, I just saw a bird fly up and then some fish like splashed out of the ground. Anyway, or out of the water. Anyway, I think it's pretty cool. You know what I mean? I think it's sad that I think we're probably one of the first cases of a species making themselves go extinct, you know, just on their own. The consequences of our actions, you know, because men have felt so moral and we could do whatever we want, but really we couldn't, you know. And that's beautiful too, if I'm being honest. We're getting what we deserved. I just wish the people I loved, you know, weren't alive at this time. I wish they were alive with me years ago, you know, and that we had experienced all this already. We had already experienced what it's like to live, you know. So then we won't have to worry about it being lost. But so that brings me to another thing about people. how, sorry, I might be enough or a lot. I just do that. But I think we're at a weird time now where humans have built themselves so society has become something so unique. You know what I mean? Sorry, I'm just scratching my ankle. But society's become so unique, and like just the mental illnesses you see come out of today, you know, and not to make fun of anyone with mental illness, I sure as fuck got it, but I just think sometimes they're so crazy. It's just so, how did we get here? Why are people, why do people have my strange addiction like we do, you know? Like, yeah, it's part of psychology and it's part of how people are built, but it's also, why has society went this way, bro? Like, there's this guy I just heard about who shot up a place because he realized that if there's no afterlife, or if there's no life with Applejack and no afterlife with Applejack, the My Little Pony character, that there's no life, there's no reason to live. He was insane, dude, or something like that. Like, he was just insane, so obsessed with Applejack, and it was like integrated into his core beliefs. And it's like, bro, you care that much about My Little Pony? Like, don't get me wrong, friendship is magic, but but it's insane. It's just crazy. It's just crazy. Like, how have we gotten here, man? How have we gotten here? And to put another point, how have we gotten so divided? You know, I feel like the political parties are just two different groups of suffering individuals trying to run the world, or trying to run the country, you know, primarily, but you know, I think it's crazy. Like, I may lean more left a lot of the time. I'll be honest, I do. But I think there's some things you can probably take from the right, and things I could be educated more on that might make me lean more right in some circumstances. But something I've just been thinking about lately is, it feels like the world has turned so evil, right? And I don't blame the left or the right or, you know, or the middle. I believe that the world had been going this way for a long time. You know, Donald Trump, I don't like him, but he's not entirely to blame, you know? He did definitely contribute to some of the hate that's going on, because obviously people didn't like the idea of him becoming in office, and then some people did, and he's definitely been a voice against liberals and liberal media, you know, which I think, honestly, there should be no political leader that turns away from one party, you know, turns away and disgraces that party. I think that itself is disgraceful, you know, because the right, no, I don't love them right now. I don't, you know, but I respect, you know, I respect someone who's educated and keeps their morals, but, you know, They're part of the big business party. You know, they're not part of MAGA with this whole, or MAGA, yeehaw, with all this Elon Musk BS, you know? And with how MAGA and MAGA, even though they're the same thing, whatever, are the same thing. Even though it feels like, because with all this Jeffrey Epstein stuff, it's stopped being political, you know? And now we're talking about good versus bad. And we've been heading this direction for a long time too, you know? Like, with the Israel versus Palestine stuff, right? I mean, if I'm being honest, and I'm sorry, this might piss some people off, both have valid points if you start overthinking it. You know what I mean? If you start thinking about it too long, you can persuade yourself to believe in anything, right? But can we just stop and think for a second? Is murder wrong? I think it is, right? And who's doing the killing? That's all I'm saying. That's comic book logic for you. The bad guy is the one that's killing, right? And if both are killing, right, it's a story about power and less about who's bad, you know? Israel is stronger, and Palestine is suffering for it. And I am so sorry for those people who are suffering. And I don't think, I hope that the civilians of Israel don't suffer. I'm gonna say that too. I hope no one suffers. And I don't know, maybe that sounds awful to be in the middle, and no one likes a guy like that. But I don't want to contribute to any more hate. You know, it's just, this world has gotten so sad. Like, are we really just gonna sit here and let Donald Trump say whatever he wants about the Epstein files? Say that they're not real? Say that they're a liberal hoax? Blame it on the liberals? It's scary, you know, that people are following someone like that, you know, who's focused on hate, and focused on people hating him, and focused on hating back. And I don't want anyone to hate me for what I'm saying here, because I'm being very vulnerable here. But I don't want anyone to be getting hurt, and I want anyone who was involved in, like, the Epstein files to be held accountable, you know? And I feel like it's gotten so complicated, you know? So complicated. Is murder wrong when it comes to a baby? Well, yeah. Not if it's in the baby, though. Or fuck, I fucked up on film. No, not if it's in the woman, though. You know? Why? Why is that so hard to get into your brain, bro? Because the baby is not done developing. Because it's not even really a baby yet. You know, it's a clump of cells, and yes, it's alive, but it doesn't mean that you can't kill it. There's bugs down here. There's mosquitoes eating me. I have to kill them. You know? I don't know if I'm even gonna upload this.